Do you ever wonder why you're doing what you do in life? Do you wish that you could be really happy and passionate about what you do? Or maybe you already are and you want to expand in a different direction. Hi, I'm Barbara Ann, host of What the Why? I love what I do. A lot of that has to do with my story, my journey to this point in life. And guess what? Everybody has a story. So please join me for conversations with leaders from all walks of life about what they do, and more importantly, why they do it, how they found their core purpose, their passion, their mission in life. And if you're looking for your own, maybe you'll get some great suggestions on how you too can find your why. Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of What the Why. If you haven't seen us before, our show features conversations with diverse leaders from all walks of life about why they do what they do and how they figured things out. Maybe you're sick and tired of being sick and tired, or you feel stuck and you want to get unstuck, whether that's in your job, your career, your company, or even your life. Almost all of our guests have something in common with you. At some point, they felt similarly and they decided to do something about it. And today's guest is no exception. She goes by the name Sister Sodium, and you'll learn a little bit more about that. Sister Sodium is the founder of Solara Frequency Foundation and the inventor of BioPhi and the point healing system, something that I actually got a chance to try out a little bit of. After becoming critically ill herself and bedridden for nearly a decade following military service, she pioneered a new form of energy medicine rooted in harmonic coherence, waveform geometry. I know we're talking a lot of science here, but if you've ever been to a naturopath, you've probably had some experience with this, and radical sovereignty, which you may not have had experience with. Now she teaches others how to reclaim their health, identify, and use voice frequency-based tools. Her work bridges science, spirit, and community care, reaching thousands through her viral videos, her research collaborations, and a living sanctuary in St. Louis, Missouri. She's known for restoring joy, power, and clarity to those who feel lost. And I'm really super excited. This interview's been a little bit in coming. So without further ado, please join me in a round of applause in welcoming Sister Sodium to What the Why. So yay!
Thank you so much for having me. It's an honor to be here.
Oh, the honor is all ours. And I mean, we're going to dive into the science because a lot of times people hear Sister Sodium and then they'll go, wait, what? She does what? And
Yeah.
so, but before we even get into that aspect, everybody's probably wondering, okay, you've done quite a bit, especially in some cutting edge science. But what did you want to do when you were little and you were growing up?
Oh, that's such a hard question. I always was a dreamer, so I always imagined the most impossible scenarios could be real. I always loved to solve problems, and strangely enough, that's kind of where I've ended up today. So I feel a little bit like a full circle moment.
Hmm. So from problem solver to today, what did that journey look like for you? Because it, especially with the military service and the things that you were able to overcome using your knowledge and your dedication and your stick-to-itiveness and your resilience and technology.
Okay, so well, to start with, my education on frequency medicine and how I got here didn't start with some fancy school. It started because I myself got really, really sick when I got home from the military. I was having thousands of seizures a day. I I was in the hospital having near-death experiences. My mom and I counted 47 times. That's such a large amount of times. I feel almost like, in retrospect, it's like it's hard to believe that that was even my life. The doctors gave me, 16, 17 different prescriptions that I'm going to have to take for the rest of my life. I mean, that's too much. And luckily, I come from a family who is holistic minded. And I came home and the last time I was in the ICU, and my dad helped me get off of all the medicine that they gave me. And from that point forward, I started my journey into trying to figure out anything that could help me. The mainstream medicine gave up on me, and I'm not special in that regard. This is millions and millions of people have this same story. The difference is I refused to take no for an answer, and I wasn't going to die, and I wasn't going to be sick for the rest of my life. I was, 27 years old when I first got sick. I'm 42 now, and I'm just now coming out of it, and thank God for the alternative practices that helped me. So I tried food and diet, which did help me a lot. And then I tried all the chemicals in my house. I got rid of all natural cleaning stuff. And this is a journey I know lots of people have taken. And, and still, though, I tried cannabis, all of these things combined together, but I was still having so many seizures a day. And I couldn't get my nervous system you know, to entrain to coherency until I found frequency medicine. And I was nervous to invest in frequency medicine because I was like, what is this? And, when you're on disability and when you're sick, money is tight. So for me to spend the $500 that this was asking, and that's a cheap product, by the way. In the frequency medicine, you up to $10,000 to try things. It's ridiculous. The gateway to get in, but I digress. So I saved up my money and I paid this $500. I tried this machine, and I had read that you need to be really consistent. Like that's the way with frequency medicine. And so every single day for 12 hours a day, and I don't recommend this. I made myself energy sick, but I was sick anyway. So why not push through was my mindset. And about 3 months in, I'd realized that I hadn't had a seizure in maybe a week and a half. Now you think, how did you not know? But when you're sick, it's easy to feel it when you're feeling bad. But when you start feeling good, it's like, oh my God, you're yourself again. And it took me a while before, almost 6 to 8 months before I started really feeling coherent and that my body started responding. The seizures started becoming, excuse me, less and less and less. And, frequency medicine, I believed, is what finally solved that. Now, the problem is it was so cumbersome. There were a lot of issues. I had to pay still a lot of big fee every month to be able to access it. And the reports were like, I mean, you had to have a PhD just to understand what these reports are saying. And that's great if you're a specialized doctor, but there are too many sick people for medicine to be that specialized. You need to be able to have a report. So that's the first thing that I solved with my system is a report that makes sense. But I also wanted it to be much more accurate. But I know I'm getting into, I think, our next question. So I'll let you take over.
Yeah, no, you're doing great, honestly, because as my audience knows, especially those who've been with us since day one in our fifth season, 5 years, they know that I personally have had my own struggles with this. And someone who I used to do a show with, who I'd gone to as a naturopath, was the one who introduced me to frequency. I knew about sound healing, which is in a similar category, but customized voice frequency in an app to my phone where it was tuned to what was going on in that moment. And it had some benefit. It did. It absolutely had some benefit, which opened up the idea of red light therapy and all these other therapies that even as a martial artist, I'd never heard of. And then you sent me a link to one that you did just right off of the screen during our intro conversation. And one of the things I wanted to wait to share with you is I have been slowly cutting my meds down for years since, and I don't even like to talk about diagnoses because you can become your diagnosis. And anybody who's out there, whether it's the long COVID community or whatever, they've heard me say, don't become the diagnosis ever. And it's because it's very hard when you start saying, I am this or I am that. And one of the things I noticed with doing yours, and I haven't even been able to do it every day. I've only been able to do it like once or twice a week. I've reduced some of my meds from 4 times a day to 3 times a day.
Wow, that's great progress. I love
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. And so I wanted to be able to say that live that there's very real, and some people have heard me say I've cut out a dose on days, but I didn't tell them why, because I wanted them to be able to know that that was in part because of what you had sent me that was very specific and to my voice as I showed up that day, which when we met, I was in what doctors would call a long COVID flare-up,
Mm-hmm.
which lasted for months, coincidentally, till I got acute COVID and my hyperimmune response said, okay, now I have something to fight. And then they both went away. I was like, oh, okay, great. If only I'd known. But there's so many things we don't know. And so let's talk about the journey you went on to learn, because you have become, whether you went to school for it or not, you have become an expert in
Thank you.
this area. And so let's talk about why you developed what you did, um, how what you're doing is different from some other products that are out there.
So I didn't invent frequency medicine. Obviously, I'm standing on the shoulders of giants, and I honestly am incredibly humbled and honored to be here. But I felt like the system could be improved, and I set out to do that. So the first thing that I wanted to solve, I told you, like the reports were too hard to read. The second thing is, we're only looking at physical symptoms, which is only half of the problem. My philosophy is that Newtonian physics has made a mistake by creating the medicine model that treats the human body only as a machine. Humans are not machines. When you take the soul out of medicine, I believe that's how we've ended up in the mess that we're in Western medicine, where we take pills to try to cover up things. What my system does is allow us to see an exact snapshot in time of what your frequencies are doing, decoded into real understandable language. But I don't stop there. The other issue that I wanted to solve is, like, for example, with these other companies, I don't want to mention anyone by name because I really am grateful to be here, but some of these other companies, everyone, you have to be able to push play, keep it going for however long you have it, and then the next day push play, and once you push stop, the waves only continue for about 5 hours. Well, I think that's great, but it's hard to constantly keep up with. So I realized that I needed to change the way that the waves are designed, which is really when things got interesting. And we discovered something called frequency architecture. Now, frequency architecture is when we begin to combine specific mathematical formulas with frequency waves. And when we did that, that's when the magic really began to appear. And one of my very first patents, which is BioPhi. Now, BioPhi is a type of downloadable frequency. They'll always be $9.99 on my website. I'm really big into frequency for the people. And even though this technology is extremely effective, I think it deserves to be in the hands of everyone. So the human body is based on phi ratio. Everything that we do is part of this infinite spiral, this golden spiral. And so whenever we took our frequency and used phi ratio, we added a few other type of mathematics in there I won't bore you guys with. But when we got all of that together, we discovered it fit like a key in the lock with the human system. Now, everything around health revolves around coherence or incoherence. You're incoherent, your body is susceptible to disease. If you're coherent, then you simply, disease cannot exist in a coherent system because disease itself is incoherent. So if we can do those two things, so all of my BioPhi waves, because they are self-fractaling, they didn't disappear within 5 hours like all of these other ones. Once you push play, after 24 hours and you push stop after 24 hours, the waveforms were stronger. And so we were able to build on that. And when we were able to build, we were able to create an entire field. And from that field, the print system was born, which is our diagnostic. Let me rewind. I'm not going to use that word, but it is the closest thing to a frequency diagnostic where we can see this beautiful snapshot of everything that's going on in your system, physical, spiritual, ancestral. I can tell in your system if your grandma swallowed her anger, and that's the reason you can't speak up. And that's the reason why you have stomach cancer, because you swallowed everything and you kept it in your stomach. And we healed your grandma. Now all of a sudden we can heal this with the coherency medicine, and everything changes. And this all happens as soon as you come to my website, you choose what print you want, we'll print you, we send you the report. As soon as you begin reading it, the frequencies begin sending to you. This is another issue that I wanted to solve, is constantly pushing play. So now we have something called the frequency engine, which exists within the field of frequency that we built. So when I print you, now an infinite, self-intelligent, self-adjusting frequency loop that is the only will apply with your direct consent. We cannot apply any frequencies without consent. That's really the cornerstone of our system. It's so much power that we had to build it with incredible ethics, and to make sure that we never crossed any lines. Let's see, where was I at? I'm sorry. I know I got a little off track with.
No, that's okay, because one of the things I want to emphasize here for people who are watching is there is so much more science behind this than you're even touching on. I mean, like we're at the point now in science, and There's so much going on in this world, we don't hear about it. But for example, one of the things I learned through my DNA analysis, I always wondered, why is it so irritating to me to hear the sound of other people chewing, but it doesn't bother me when I hear my dogs? Literally, 23andMe in my comprehensive report was able to tell me that 78% of my ancestral group has that issue.
Oh,
Like,
wow.
they were able to tell me that this is a thing. I didn't even ask the question, but it apparently it comes up enough. They felt it was important enough to put it in my report. And there are so many things that we now know through sound, through voice, through facial recognition scanning that when you layer on it the technology, are able to find solutions to things that no one really even thought of. And our vagus nerve is super powerful. So we're talking about taking thousands of years of practice and science, things that go back in the martial arts community a long time, how you do this, how you do this, how you do this, and then layer that with technology and make it very hyper specific to individuals. Um, you're talking about like literal individual level solutions because we're all energy. Every single thing in our body
Yeah,
is energy.
everything that we do is 100% custom. So we can do exact custom frequencies for everything that you're going through, whether that's a downloadable or whether that's through the print engine and the print. And then reading the print itself becomes the medicine. Yeah, because who wants to spend all this extra time doing things when you can just receive the healing and then continue on with your other layers of health? I always encourage, don't let any natural medicine be the only natural medicine. I think homeopathics works best in layers, and that includes with frequency medicine. But if you're eating right and you're drinking water and you're getting good sleep and you're loving yourself and you're loving your body, you add frequency medicine and coherence. I mean, it's rocket fuel to self growth and physical healing and even consciousness expansion. The print system is unique because not only can we map your body, but we can map any energy. So we can map your home. Do you have mold? Is that what's causing your illness? We can map a land. Is there right now we're doing I'm working on a project in my hometown, St. Louis, Missouri, called the Dutchtown Coherency Project. And within that, we've discovered if we can bring coherency to a cell, we can bring coherency to an organ, we can bring coherency to a body. Then we realized we could bring coherency to a couple, a family, why not a neighborhood? So now we are extending our program out to see what kind of coherency we can bring to our city. And with coherency comes peace, comes healing, comes rejuvenation. And I really think that we don't even have to stop there. The only limit is our hearts and our imaginations and what we're willing to put in the world to change it. And well, I'm willing to bet everything I have on that we can. We can change the
Yeah.
world for the better.
We can't. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. So let's talk a little bit more. It sounds like some of the work you're doing in St. Louis might be associated with the Solara Frequency Foundation piece of
Yes.
your work. Okay. So how did you get involved in a project as someone who's worked in a whole city, and would love to have had something like this? We had what we call collective impact. So
Hmm.
that's kind of bringing everyone together. But you're literally talking about solving the problem from the insides of people
Yeah.
outwards as
Yeah.
opposed
And
to outward in.
so
So
I got
how did you get
really
involved in
lucky.
this?
I got lucky, or maybe it was the frequency. Maybe I got in alignment, is what really happened. And I moved in, and the street that I live on, this really wonderful woman named Tasha, she runs a page that's like a neighborhood group. She says, "Oh, girl, come get on this page." I said, "Okay." And then she posts and she says, "Hey, if you want to be involved in the design committee for the neighborhood, show up." And I happened to be free, so I showed up to that. And at that meeting, another really cool like community member named Kyle says, "Hey, I want to do this art project where we have all these empty houses in our community, and what if we put poetry on them? What if we made like an art walk so that people would go through and do this?" And this might be like a 2-year project because there's 40, 50 houses. So that need this healing. So we have the St. Louis Poet Laureate as part of this. I mean, it's just incredible how the community is coming together. And this is what I get to do, which I'm really excited about. So because we can map anything, I took the entire list of houses and we decided which houses are asking to go first. what their trauma was, what needed to be cleared, what they're asking for. And in a way, we're doing a bit of like geospatial engineering in a new way that I don't know has been applied before. And so we're taking this. And so let's say we have a house that asks for to remember its roots and it wants the community to remember its roots. So then we'll have a poem about that. And then I'll get to put a little cute QR code up with a frequency that exactly matches the house and the healing resonance of the neighborhood. Then we just take that. The more people download it, the more people entrain, the more healing our neighborhood gets. And I don't know if you've ever heard in healing, but when more than one human gets together, it becomes more powerful. And I'm not trying to be biblical in any way, but in science, these quantum fields will compound. The energy compounds when humans get together. And it's my hope that it's going to be really powerful. I think art and medicine and frequency go really well together. And I think art's a great gateway for people to step into this world because it can be kind of intimidating. I love the science of it, but I know that like sometimes I get a little in the grass about it. But I'm hoping that the art can bring people to this place of beauty, which will allow their hearts to open, which I hope can bring healing to the city. So that's how I got involved. Basically, the universe was like, yes, ma'am, if you want this, I will show you the path. And I've been fortunate enough to be able to follow it.
Which is awesome. I mean, really awesome.
Thank you.
And something that's so replicatable. I mean, even the people,
Yes.
and it would be really interesting to see what trauma-informed therapists and coaches would do with this.
Oh, girl, please send them my way. I would love to repeat this. I would love to work with people like that. That's why I'm doing this podcast is because I want to reach other healers.
Yeah, and believe me, I've mentioned it to several, and here's the interesting thing. There are those that are like, "Oh, I can't wait to see this episode." And then there are those who are kind of, but they've been my patient for so long.
You know,
Kind of like pharma. There's not really an interest in actually curing the person. It's keeping them dependent on them for
mhm.
revenue. And I don't know how many times you've come across this, but it is something that I've seen.
Yeah, unfortunately, I'm not interested in creating more patients. I'm interested in creating human beings that take their power back and take their health into their own hands. My entire system is designed by that. You get one print from me, it'll continue infinitely sending those frequencies. That you may only need one. If you want to buy more, you want to, be part of it more, absolutely. You're just stacking more healing layers, but that's why I keep and by the way, my BioPhi files when you buy them, like I said, they're only $9.99, but they're also, I don't license them. I want practitioners to use them with their patients because I want the world to heal. I go by Sister Sodium because I'm salty. I'm tired of the traditional medical model that is just, pardon my words here, kind of screwing patients over, right? Like I'm not saying that there's not good people there, but I'm saying what we're seeing and hearing from patients tells me that we need real solutions to work. And I want to be part of that conversation to create lasting change and potentially democratize medicine as a whole.
Yeah, which is one of the reasons why I was so excited to have, and still I'm so excited to have you on this show. And what you're doing takes a lot of courage.
Thank you. I appreciate
Um,
that.
oh, absolutely. And so there are a lot of people who are watching right now who are probably thinking to themselves, oh, if only I had the courage to, dot, dot, dot. And a lot of our audience, the fear of change is still bigger than the fear of staying the same. But you did not let that stand in your way. How did you find the courage to go out and immerse yourself in this industry and start doing what others don't believe is possible?
I believe suffering is a catalyst. And I went through it. When I tell you I was very sick, the near death experiences, I mean, my heart quit on my mom and dad's living room floor. And when you go through stuff like that and God's spirit, whatever you want to call it, lets you live, well, I mean, I don't think that I have any other choice but to pay it forward. There are so many individuals that step forward to help me in my time of need that I feel it is not just my duty and my obligation, but my greatest purpose to be able to play this forward. Is it scary sometimes? Absolutely. Is it maybe risky? Sure, why not? But what is life but a chance to live every moment? And after spending 10 years ill, I'm not gonna lay down anymore, whatever it takes. So I'm grateful for the fire that got me here, and I'm grateful for the coherency that keeps me standing. I pray daily for wisdom, and like I said, I just have so much gratitude, and that really helps clear the path and keeps the fear and anything like that at bay.
Mhm. Which literally are words to live by. There are
Yes,
people
ma'am.
out there who are surviving, but they aren't really living.
I think I could probably help with that. I think that sometimes you get stuck there. We absolutely can create a scan and run a print on that exact energy. So if you're listening to this and you're someone who just doesn't know how to get out of that stuck position, send us an email. Let us know. We'll develop a print just for you, custom for you. Let's solve your problems. I want you to have the power so that you can make these decisions. I think so often the reason people get stuck is because you're taught to trust the doctor, let them handle it, don't question anything. You don't know, you don't have this degree. And honestly, that's bullshit. You do know. This is your body. What do you mean I don't know my own body? And if you don't know, it's time to start listening. And I have a print to help you do that too. So wherever you're at in your journey, I would love to help you take your health into your own hands. And when we have enough people doing that, we reach that hundredth monkey effect, that tipping point of no return, where perhaps humanity, we can actually save ourselves rather than waiting for someone else to do it.
Hmm. Or letting somebody profit off of us not actually doing it.
Exactly.
Because that really is a reality that we face. I think I shared with you, I had somebody that I was mentoring who had come up with a solution to something and he brought it to Big Pharma and they brought in like a room of 12 people. He actually got nervous. And what they wanted to do was buy and shelve it. They said, why would we want to actually produce this? We would have
Mm-hmm.
no, people wouldn't need us anymore for all this other stuff. It's counterproductive to our needs. And he said he actually was very frightened.
Yeah.
He never expected that result, and yet when you look at the environment as it is with corporate, that is the reality. There is a lot more profit in keeping people just surviving or well enough than there is in curing.
I think that's why we need to build our own systems. We can't continue to exist in this system that doesn't serve us. And here's the deal: we're never going to change things top down. Okay, trickle down economics, trickle down medicine, trickle down anything doesn't work because there's these fat hands waiting to catch it before it gets to the people that really need it. Deep
Yes.
change like this starts in communities. Like how we're doing with this, the community art program. When real people start knowing and believing and understanding the power that we actually have, I think we can create a movement that creates that structures and builds something. I mean, that's the whole point of Solara Frequency Foundation. The Solaran field is 100% scalable. Whether we have 20 people, 300 people, 300,000, our system works the same. So I believe we've built something that potentially not only can replace these extractive systems, but create harmony on earth while we're at it. So you know I try not to dwell so much on what the world is doing because we can't change these things by hating them or being angry at them. I trust me, I went to war. It doesn't do anything. It doesn't change. All it does is make you hateful, make you hurt. And instinctively, I mean, well, maybe not instinctively, but when you are talking about energy, everything comes down to entrainment. So when you're constantly focusing on these type of things, that doesn't mean we're denying reality, but you begin to entrain to that. So the only way for us to truly begin taking that first step is to begin loving everything, even the things we hate. You might be like, I just love that this system is crooked. Why? Because it gives me the opportunity to create this. This pressure is a privilege to be able to change things for the good. You don't change things when you're happy and content. You're happy and content. But when we change our perspective and we consider how we might use our energy to entrain other energy, I think not only is love the answer, which seems so cliche, but even every research test and scan we've done shows that love is the first step to softening and understanding these energy patterns. So I don't know. I think that a paradigm change is needed for a lot of different reasons.
You nailed it. Love of self, love of others, and love of circumstances.
Yes.
Yeah. And to your point, not to ignore it, but to embrace it and see the potential gifts that can come from it.
Absolutely.
even in some of even in some of the seemingly darkest times, which is one of the reasons I love the yin yang symbol. There's
Yeah.
good in the bad, there's positive in the negative and negative in the positive, and that's how you get balance. And so, believe it or not, we are almost at time.
Oh my
So
God.
I know it goes fast, and I would love to have you back at some point and let's talk more about, as your work continues to evolve, and also give us an update on what's going on in St. Louis, because that is significant as someone who's comes from that background and doing work in communities through collective impact and trying to facilitate change. This could be especially for those who are doing trauma-informed care as their approach, this could be a game changer for entities out there. And the fact that you've decided to democratize it and make it as accessible as possible, where others would have capitalized on it and charged a lot of money if they even bothered to make it available, or if they altered it slightly so it wouldn't be quite as effective, just
Oh,
enough. Yeah.
that one makes me so salty. You mean I
Hmm.
bought this machine and then you turned it on low? Are you kidding me? Like, no, we're not doing any of that in Solara. You get 100% of the best quality that I can make. And I'm constantly innovating and thinking, how can I make it better? No, we ain't playing like that.
So I know for those of you who are watching and listening, depending on where you are accessing this show, uh, all of Sister Sodium's social media links and her website will be in the comments below the recording and or video. But for those who maybe are only hearing it, what is the easiest way for people to reach you?
The website, my email, Sister Sodium at Solara Frequency Foundation. We stay on answering those emails. If you send me a message on social media, we have also have an Instagram, solarafrequencyfoundation.com. I'm not as good at answering that, but the website, email, every time.
Awesome. All right. And I made it through without giving your real name. So
Yes, thank you.
you're welcome. You're
No, I
absolutely
figured that.
welcome.
I'm so
Uh,
grateful.
and so, please, for those of you who have been battling, and I know some of you personally out there that have even reached out to me and shared your stories, please do check out what Sister Sodium has to offer, what her company does. There's so many advances in science that just don't get the attention that they deserve, and many of them really are true solutions. They're not just palliative care, they're actual solutions, actual healing modalities based in science, founded on thousands of years of proven techniques in some instances. So, what do you really have to lose
Exactly.
by trying it out? Um, so, thank you so much again for being here. And and to all of you who are watching, thank you for watching and or listening to our show. You have so many choices these days. I mean, so many. And so we really appreciate and are honored that you choose to spend your time with us. And if you find this information valuable, please tell a friend. We've had some really fascinating guests, the past, the present, and some coming up in the future. And we would love to continue to spread the word about how change really is possible when you've decided that that's where you no longer want to stay where you are and you want to do something different in your life. It really is possible. So tune in again for more illuminating and fascinating and enlightening and energetic, in all senses of the word, conversations with guests such as Sister Sodium, who, like many of you who went on a journey, in her case, a life-changing one, a life-saving one, she went on a journey, as you can, to find your purpose and live it.